Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We hope you're having a great day. We're here today to talk about something that we've actually postponed for several weeks now. Many of you know that we did the GalaxyCon show in Raleigh the end of July, but there was a lot going on behind the scenes that very few people realized was happening during that time.
I think it was necessary for us to postpone putting this out until now to give ourselves time to heal.
Yes.
Because this was quite a bit of an emotional blow to us and to the community, even though I don't really think the community saw it for what it was, and that's perfectly fine. But this was definitely directed to several of the creators and vendors at the show, and I know that others have already worded their opinions on this.
Yes, so here's ours, for what it's worth.
For what it's worth.
So just about a week before the show happened, we received an email from GalaxyCon saying that they are changing the rebooking process for next year. Now, let me go back and just describe what has been happening for the last 4 years that we've been involved in GalaxyCon, and that is at the end of the show, Sunday evening, you are sent via email the application for the following year. You have until midnight to get that application filled out and full payment in to them in order to secure your spot for the following year. So yes, for 4 years now, we have had $1,600+ tied up immediately as soon as the show ends.
For 12 months.
Yeah, for 12 months for the following year. And that's okay. I understand that's how some of these big companies work.
It is how a lot of big venues work. And it's quite common for a venue to ask for either half or whole payment ahead of time to reserve your spot.
Yes. Your medium ones do not do full 12 months, and that is nice. Yeah. But yeah, your big ones do. It goes into, I'm not going to read this entire email, but it does go into how that the Raleigh Convention Center has one of the smallest exhibitor spaces that they do. GalaxyCon does multiple shows throughout the United States.
I know there's one in Richmond, one in Idaho, there's
one in Texas, I believe.
Yeah.
They're all over. And then it goes on to say that they currently have 200 vendors on the wait list to try to get into the GalaxyCon in Raleigh. And that number continues to grow annually. This is nothing new with your big venues. I know numerous big venues are in the exact same boat, and it's pretty much you're on that wait list until somebody either drops out or passes away, whichever comes first, unfortunately. And
in a lot of ways, it's like Congress seats.
Yeah, it really
it really is. I just realized that.
And then, you are allowed to come in and take that spot. That is just the way things are. Mm-hmm. While Lady V and I don't do any of the other great big ones, we are friends with numerous vendors that do some of these other big ones, so I know this to be fact. And then it goes on down to say that they're, doing everything they can to accommodate their wait list. They're adding exhibit space in adjoining hotels, which I know for a fact this year was an absolute disaster because I know several people that were in those hotels that made no money whatsoever. I know 2 of them in particular didn't even cover booth rental by Sunday afternoon, and that is horrible. They also set up a Raleigh Street Fest this year for the first time. I did not know anybody at that,
I did not know.
Set up out there, so I do not know how that went. Then it goes on to say, our records indicate that you are currently registered for fewer than 2 GalaxyCon shows during the 25-26 season. While we'd love to continue having you at GalaxyCon Raleigh, future participation will require a stronger commitment to the broader tour. This is where it hit home because, the $1,600+ that I gave you a year in advance to hold our spot, the numerous ads that we put out advertising this show obviously doesn't mean anything to them, and that
never mind me. It bothers me as a chronic illness vendor, and I know that there are numerous other ones in there that have chronic illnesses that cannot afford to travel very far out of this state because of their illness. That hits hard. You're supposed to be there as somebody who is open to the community. It doesn't matter what illness you suffer from. It doesn't matter your gender, your sexual orientation, your preferences, nothing. Your skin, your religion, everything is supposed to be open in this community, and yet you just slam the door in anybody who has health issues.
Mm-hmm. You really did. Now, when we went to set up on Wednesday of that following week for the show, the minute I walked in there, the whole atmosphere had changed drastically.
It was not the welcome home party vibe that we had been accustomed to.
You had vendors snapping at each other, getting ugly with each other, and I was like, wow. Okay, the only thing that I knew had changed was this email. The next day, the first day of the show, my husband happened to be talking to another vendor, and she said, oh, they've backed out of this stuff. This is not going to happen. Check your email. There's a new email out. Well, I never got that second email at all. I checked everything. It didn't show up. And
I believe that they had already blacklisted the ones that they did not want coming back.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we got the
Well, I do
end of
know that
stick.
several of them only do a few shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the ones that got the second letter saying, hey, we'll give you some consideration. But ones like us where we only do one, no, they're not giving us any consideration at all. Then at the end of the show, they sent an application. But by then I was furious, to be perfectly honest with you. I was hurt, I was furious. And I said, no, that's it, we're pulling out. Honestly, this is not about the money whatsoever. I took and looked at things. I took a very hard look at things and realized that because this show is so incredibly expensive for us, we walked in the door $3,000 in debt on this show before we ever made the first penny. By the time you tacked on, the 16 something for the booth rental, they charge the truck rental, they charge $400 for internet. Then electricity was on top of that. We had help at that show, so we had to get
badges.
We had to get extra badges because they only allow you a couple badges, and then if you bring in extra help, that's on you, and that's like $145 a piece, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it all added up to be an exorbitant amount of money to lay out before you ever made the first penny. And once all your expenses were tacked in, and you take a hard look at things, you realize that the profit isn't all that much. All the expenses I just named, that's before you ever even take in consideration your price for the goods you sell. So that has to be taken out also.
Never mind, there are several that come from, they do just this one in the state, but they come from out of town, so they're having to, add their gas and their food budget and their hotel room.
I was gonna say a lot of them do hotel rooms, and we're lucky that we can come back and forth
we drive
to
back and
home.
forth.
But a lot of them are not that way. We do know that GalaxyCon has recently purchased their own truck line, and they are looking to streamline shows and have the same vendors just move with them from venue to venue. While I understand their point of view on this as a business, and this is their business, they're welcome to do whatever they want to, I think in the end it's going to end up hurting the community, because you will notice that these people that do the same shows do not bring in new products every year, and a lot of them sell the same products to begin with. And so you've got a lot of repetition. You're taking out a lot of these specialty items like we bring in, of the statues and the stationery, which I know nobody else sells in there.
I was going to say, that's going to become very difficult for, other authors and artists. Mm-hmm. They can't afford to have that much stock in a truck for months on end.
Yeah, there's no way we could at all. So because of health issues, mainly stemming from getting COVID at GalaxyCon last year, the ironic
irony in this.
The irony in this has not been missed, believe me.
No. No, but I think we kind of knew it was coming when they didn't give 2 cares of a rat's tail, when over half of their vendors were dropping in their booths with COVID last year.
Yeah, and they
And
did.
actually, I found out this year through another good friend of mine who is a vendor at GalaxyCon, it wasn't just COVID that was going around. There were several different strands that were going around, making people sick.
Well, and then there was one that had food poisoning.
Yeah, and one person that got food poisoning. Yep, let's add that. That's always great.
Yeah.
I still think half my soul is still stuck in the sewer system there from last year. Pretty sure the toilet was gurgling up asking me for the other half this year.
So anyway, we have made the hard decision that we will not be returning to GalaxyCon at this point. And while we are not trying to put this video out to convince you to go one way or another, because it is completely your decision, we will not be there. We are looking at possibly adding 1 or 2 small shows, just to kind of do, have something to replace it with, but we'll see. A lot's going to depend on our health next year. And
we prefer doing these shows to be a part of the community, to reach out to people who are neurodivergent, who suffer from chronic illnesses or any other physical illnesses, and bring a little bit of light to their day. And to have seen that GalaxyCon lost the passion and the original vision for being a safe and open community was very heartbreaking. I know, as one of the things that I picked up on this year is that normally people are going around, wearing pride flags as capes, and there was hardly any of that. The people were just dressed in regular costumes or regular t-shirts. There was no bright colors and exuberant party vibes. It did not feel like a safe, open space this year.
no, it did not.
And I was very disappointed in that.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. It really was, because I can only imagine that people did not feel safe in expressing themselves.
However, I can say, with open consciousness, having done the Greenville Comic-Con here in North Carolina 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, yeah.
That one was open, safe. It was perfect. Everybody was there. Everybody was having a great time. It was GalaxyCon that was the one that stood out against that. Even our one in the spring that we did down at the beach, CoastalCon. CoastalCon was open and safe for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I think personally, and this is just a personal opinion, I think GalaxyCon has gotten a little too big for their britches and is letting money override everything else, and that saddens me greatly.
So this may be the end of us with GalaxyCon, but it is not the end of the One Stop Dragon Shop or authors Alice Brennan and Lady V.
Not at all.
If you know us, we are hard-headed, we are stubborn individuals, and we will keep plugging along. Check out our website for a full list of upcoming shows. There are plenty of other small cons in North Carolina that we will be attending, we will be setting up at as vendors, and we hope to see you there.